Hello, everyone. Lisa Fain here. I'm CEO of Center for Mentoring Excellence, and also here in my capacity as an ambassador to the board for the International Mentoring Association. And I'm so excited that we are resuming our series on interviews with mentoring experts, and delighted today to welcome Dr. Riza Kadilar with us. Dr. Kadilar has generously agreed to give us some of his time. I want to tell you a little bit about him before we dig into our conversation about mentoring. Dr. Kadilar is a PhD in economics. After a BSc degree at METU in industrial engineering, he's gotten his degree at Stanford and completed his MBA at HEC Paris and an executive management course on banking at INSEAD. He has various advanced level diplomas in executive coaching and mentoring, has recently attended online programs on leadership in the digital age at Columbia Business School and at INSEAD as well. His professional career includes senior level bank management experience in the UK, the Netherlands, France, and Turkey. He's been a senior country manager and representative for Turkey at NATIXIS. I'm sure he'll tell me how to pronounce that correctly, since 2006. He served as deputy CEO at a merchant bank in London, as a management board member of a trade finance bank in Amsterdam, and the head of corporate banking and financial institutions at a Turkish bank in Istanbul. In a voluntary position, he's the global president of EMCC Global, which is previously the European Mentoring and Coaching Council. For those involved in IMA, you know what a great partner EMCC has been to us through the years. And he's chairman of the China Institute of Turkey, the scientific committee member at Institut du Bosphore in Paris, president of TUSAID Netherlands Task Force, and a board member at the Hisar Education Foundation in Istanbul. He offers business and financial development advisory, executive coaching, and training services through his recently established franchise, and also invests in startups, mainly in the area of agri-food technology. He's a visiting professor at various leading universities and has delivered motivational speeches over the last 20 years in more than 30 countries. And recently on online platforms, as the whole world has gone online as well, teaching more than 10,000 individuals on leadership development related topics. There's so much more I could tell. Usually I love the last line of everybody's bio, which tells you more than all the rest, which is that he's married and a proud father. So Dr. Kadilar, we're so happy to have you here. Welcome.
Yeah, Lisa, I'm so sorry. I never realized that you're going to read them all. So I should have sent you the shorter version.
No, you know, one of the beautiful things, no worries at all. One of the beautiful things about bios is it helps us get a full sense of who we're talking to. And I'm sure will raise natural curiosities in others, as it did for me as well. So welcome. We're happy that you're here today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And those who want to learn more about my past, they can dig in LinkedIn or whatever. But I'm here to talk about the future. So our passion, our kind of common passion on mentoring and how mentoring can change the world. So thank you for inviting me. It's a bit, as you just rightly put it, after bedtime of many people around this part of the globe, but I'm up and running, energetic, being with you to talk about mentoring.
Wonderful. Glad you're here. And the beauty of a recorded Zoom interview is people can watch it during their waking hours, although this is recorded late. So extra dedication for you around to do this around in the late evenings. So appreciate that. So let's talk about how you got interested in mentoring at the start.
Very honestly, I'm a banker, cold-blooded banker. I've been around for 30 years, dealt with big projects and everything. But when I was working in London 2 decades ago, I got into coaching, and I went to an accredited school there and did some advanced work. But I never became a coach. So I was more like, a banker using coaching as a tool for human development, leadership, blah, blah. But then when I moved back to Turkey to early 2010s, I get involved with EMCC. And I did some, after this financial crisis, some more advanced studies and everything. On the way, I discovered that EMCC actually was established as European Mentoring Center. And in the core, in the DNA, mentoring was there. But of course, over the years, coaching became more, important, fashionable, or whatever. But more I think I had the privilege to work with David Clutterbeck, David Magnuson, Hawkins, or whatever, all the other people who really put effort in mentoring for quite a long time. And more I discovered about mentoring, I got more passionate about it. I'm still a coach. I'm still a professional coach. I can proud to say I'm no longer a banker, but I do still some financial activities, investments, and everything. But mentoring became a tool, more than a tool, to really do good things on a scale and using more resources on a scale. A great social equity provider, a great dialogue provider, a great cultural change provider. So this is how I got into mentoring. And since 2013, my focus is more on the mentoring side. I'm not only mentoring in different areas, but I'm also supporting different mentoring programs, and I'm going to talk about it. I believe the design of the mentoring programs is even more important than the quality of mentors or matching or whatever. And I got involved with 2 dozen, I would say, at least, different mentoring programs all through those years, which I'm very proud of. So this is how I ended up being here.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about those mentoring programs, but before we do, let's just get some definitions here. So what do you, how would you define mentoring, and how do you see it as different from other developmental programs or modalities?
Oh my goodness, I should have prepared my, well, what we did, thanks to IMA, we conducted, when I say we, I'm talking about the MCC, because we were very curious about, is there a kind of one definition of mentoring? And actually there is none. And there were some mega studies, and one of them I really liked, I think IMA related study. You or those researchers, they came up with the keywords. Wherever they see those words, yes, this we're talking about mentoring. But we funneled it down, and we wanted to come with some certain basic elements of mentoring, which I think honestly, I feel really it resonates with me. It's a sharing of skills and knowledge and expertise with a mentor and between a mentor and mentee. That's how the definition starts. And the way we like it is a developmental conversation. It's an experience sharing and a role modeling. So there is no advice. We're going to talk about. So many people believe that, here I am, I'm the mentor, I'm going to give my advice to this, youngster, whatever. This is not the case. We're talking about context sharing, not necessarily the advice giving. And it's an inclusive, two-way partnership for mutual learning that values difference. So it's an inclusive relationship. So the way we define, and I do define in my own kind of domain. So unlike many areas where mentoring is used, from the more sponsorship mentoring, where the more senior people will take care of the protege to move from one place A to another, I truly believe it's a developmental process. And actually, both mentor and mentee, they go through the same kind of experience with different takes. I know we're talking to the converted, so we already talked the same thing. But when that's the difficulty, Lisa, today with you, because we're going to be talking about things that most of people who are watching us, they're not going to find it controversial, but maybe they do. I don't know. But for example, in the startup domain, in the incubators, in the new technology startups and everything, everyone has a mentor, and the way they use mentoring is not necessarily developmental mentoring, is we are just defining here. And when they discover it, they find it much more useful. But those definitions are kind of blurry. They should be blurry, that's okay. But it all depends what you want to get out of it. So that's why, yeah, thanks for asking about definition. We're still working on it. There's no one single one. But I think the one I just summarized to you a minute ago, I think that encompasses the most of the way the principles and the philosophy behind mentoring is we believe in.
Yeah, it's so interesting what you're saying, and the use of this two-way relationship. Sometimes I use the term reciprocity. I think it's probably the same idea. But I think what I find, I get this question, this is probably the first question that I ever get, I don't know about you, is like, what's the difference between mentoring and coaching, and which one should I be using, and who's my mentor versus who's my coach, right? Is this idea of the mentor really gaining as much as or more than the mentee in what they're learning, and that this is this two-way development, which I think distinguishes it from coaching pretty significantly, don't you?
Yeah, I think the way I believe mentoring should be done with all the coaching skills and competencies. So in that respect, there is not much difference, because if you don't know how to listen, if you don't know how to ask questions, if you don't know about empathy or self-development and everything, all those things, you are in a different place. But that's not enough. In mentoring, we're talking about situational wisdom, the contextual wisdom, and how to pass this wisdom, how to make it available for the benefit of the mentee. And that's the art. Because, those who have a teenager, son, daughter, whatever, they will maybe better understand whenever you tell, especially a kid, to do something, they will never do it. Yeah. So at best, they will do the opposite, okay?
Right.
And this is true, all of us. We all have this youth in our side. So whenever we seek for advice, actually we don't. But That's the dilemma, that's the beauty. How you can share your wisdom, your accumulated experience, knowledge, in a way to make it available for the benefit of the mentee, so that she or he will take care whatever they want to take away from this conversation, even the space. So in that respect, mentoring is definitely not far away from coaching. But the art comes how you make yourself really available for the benefit, for the development of the mentee. Yeah. So there are nuances, I think, between coaching and mentoring.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'd love to hear some about the mentoring programs that you're involved in. I'm particularly interested in this idea of startup and entrepreneurial world that you do as well, because I think that's something that's especially unique, certainly in the experts that I've spoken to. But I'd love to hear about the mentoring programs that you're working on. You can start wherever you like.
I think none of them is really particularly unique in their own way, but I think the critical issue is to apply a certain standard for the programs. And I'm biased, okay, I make the disclosure, but I think the international standards for mentoring and coaching programs, ISMCP, that we advocate, which is an evidence-based, research-based methodology, it's just 6 main factors. It's not a prescriptive, it's more a benchmark approach to design the programs. And using this, I got involved with a few women empowerment type of programs. One of them, for example, that's going on for the 7th year now, with the American Chamber of Commerce in Turkey. So AmCham, one of their goals is, of course, to create a business environment where people can flourish. And they've discovered that, for women leadership empowerment, this is a critical issue for a country like Turkey, where the male-dominant business culture is still there. So we came up with the design of a program where all member company, if they wish to join the program, they come up with a mentor, most probably their CEO, and also with a mentee, N-1, N-2, a woman. In the first year, we also asked the CEOs to be a woman as well. Then we realized that, it's not about being woman or man or whatever. It's all about the way you develop other people. And man has even a bigger role to play. So then we started to have mentors, CEOs, man, woman, whatever. And we realized it all the way. They also learn a lot. They also grew a lot. So this program been running now for the 7th year. I think I'm still proud of this, because many mentees, they either became a mentor or they also moved up the ladder. They kind of became CEO of different companies and everything. So we have seen how those, impact eventually coming into place. Another program that I had a big challenge. Again, I'm going to give examples from Turkey, where I had most of my mentoring experience happened. There's a Turkish Businessmen Association, which is the main employers association, let's say. And, they came up with the idea that, there's a disparity in the country. The western part of the country is much, much more advanced than the eastern part of the country, especially in terms of business, GDP or whatever. And they said, why don't we have the businessman from the west mentor the businessman from the east, so that we can bring a kind of harmonized more. That was challenging, because when you talk about the top businessmen, they don't necessarily master the coaching skills. They are the master of their words, and they know what is right, and very difficult to to even engage into a dialogue with them. This is
Mm.
the way it is. It's true for most of the, maybe more traditional leaders, business leaders. And that was great. That was really great because at the end, they really run this program. We provided what I discovered, for example, in the specific case, providing proper training to the mentees were even more important than preparing the mentors,
Mm.
because mentors come with their preconceived ideas and habits, but it's up to mentees to also challenge them to get more. So in that program, we put the most focus on the mentee development, which paid back very nicely at the end of the program. So I can continue. There are many more programs, and lately at EMCC, we had a global agreement with TWN, a Professional Women Network. They set up a women entrepreneurship program, and we provided mentors for their participants for this program. So those women who participate in this program, they enhance their entrepreneurship skills. They are expected to create their companies or whatever, but on the way, we provided the mentors that could help them, that could work with them, that could walk with them through this journey. So there are many more examples,
Yeah.
but especially the empowering some part, it's youth, women, underprivileged or whatever. Mentoring is a great tool, and I like it.
So I'm so curious what you talked about in terms of the West mentoring the East, and this idea of people who have been, just because they've been successful leaders in their company doesn't mean that they're going to be great mentors. How do you help them adopt a mentoring mindset or mentoring competency so that it doesn't feel like an apprenticeship, or that they're writing a prescription pad for, a prescription for somebody who's got a little bit of a different journey? How do you help them in that journey as a mentor?
Two factors. One is to provide them with basic coaching skills. Even if they reject, when they know about it, when they try it with their kids, they understand it works.
Yeah.
So that's the first part. So we provided them the basic coaching skills training, short version, but still interactive, applicable, peer group, whatever. So they didn't really like this. We made it very quick, but at least they got the understanding that what they got to listen, how they ask questions, all those basic things, okay? And the second thing came, I think the most powerful part was when we had a workshop where we discussed about the ethical framework of the program. Every mentoring program starts with a goal. Of course, we provide all the support for all partners. And then we need to have a kind of ethical framework. And the best way to do it is to put people together at a workshop to talk about, the goal, means, how we reach there, etc., etc. And when they are not alone, when they are together, the peer, psychology, after having this basic coaching skills training, let's say, they started to understand, their word is different than their mentee's word. And being this inclusive approach, respect, accepting them as they are, and to have the curiosity about their realities, to learn about, their environment, I think they became more open-minded, because some of them, they were like, okay, I can give them a contract and they can double their work turnover in a year. Fine, but what will happen the year after? So those quick fix or low-hanging fruits, let's say, they realized that that wasn't the goal of the program. And of course, the hidden kind of underlying more framework. We also had a partner. We work with World Bank. And when World Bank talks about the Human Development Index and everything, they realize it's not just money. It's not just the performance. It's something more. And at the end, let me tell you, those who were more strict, they got the most out of it, enjoying the food, culture, the way of life, the mutual visits. That was before Corona time, okay?
Yes.
The COVID time. So, that was amazing. But again, two things, because you're going to provide them some sort of tools, competencies, but at the same time, the workshop, the ethic framework workshop, where they are openly debate goals, drawbacks, experiences, that really helps to open their mind.
Mm, I bet the mutual learning is really marked. How do you measure success in something like that?
Yeah, in all those programs, we do a kind of, survey. In fact, we do evaluate three different levels. One is the mentor-mentee, whether they are happy, what could be done better or whatever. We also evaluate the whole program manager support, how the program was designed or what kind of support they were given as both mentee and mentor. But also we try to evaluate the goal, the final, how the program reached its goal or not. And for the final one, the one that I use most of the time, it's a very simple tool based on the goal of the program, a simple survey at the beginning and at the end, and another 6 months after the end of the program for a self-evaluation. It's like perceived reality. If people, they say they are rich, they are rich. I don't care how much money they have in their account. So based on this principle, we ask them to evaluate their own position before, after, and a bit further after the program, and to compare, even though we know that the results can be can be kind of changed due to many different external factors. But this is a tool that we have. Implicitly, a way to measure the success of the programs is also to see the enthusiasm of people in the second term. If the program doesn't reach the second year or second season, like the TV series, if there's no second season, forget it. There
The
was
network
something.
chooses not to renew, right?
Yeah. But if there's a second season, it means there are lots of learning and still some enthusiasm in the system, in the sponsor, or among the mentors and mentees. As long as we see the following seasons, I think whatever we measure has a good embedded knowledge, information, value. That's my kind of approach.
Great. I love the analogy to a TV series. There's some truth there for sure. So I'm curious what your thoughts are about how we make mentoring available to a larger audience. How do we democratize mentoring so that really more people can experience it?
That's one of the topics that I'm really kind of curious and I'm working on. I think what this recent pandemic really helped us, as we just are doing together with you now, we discovered more ways to collaborate together. It's not only these video calls, but also distant collaboration tools, techniques, the online. I think we should continue down that path. And in order to democratize mentoring, there are two aspects. One, we should provide proper training to mentors and mentees. And the second thing, we should provide proper support and training to sponsors or managers or of the programs. The first one is relatively easy because, as we've just highlighted in my CV, when I attended those online programs from Columbia Business School, INSEAD or whatever, I discovered that it was way before COVID time, way before pandemic time, and everything was online. And I realized that the online learning is nothing new. It's been around. I also taught some MBA courses years ago, but the way I did it was more like as we do today, like on Zoom, instead of being in the room through a video call. But as long as we can provide our training programs with a proper LMS, learning management system tools, offering them in the Bloom taxonomy in order to let the participants to really come out with whatever they want to come out with, enabling the change in their behaviors and belief systems and everything, whatever. And we should apply those proper tools in order to really democratize, to reach out to a much larger audience in mentoring training. And this, we can do it. The cost is a fraction. Possibilities are enormous. Those people that we can never reach. I have a small, my own program, and already within the first year, we have people from, it's just in Turkish, just a Turkish program. It's already from 15 different countries. People do live everywhere in the world, from, I think, many different time zones, but they can choose to be with us. And I think we should provide the same language skills, language possibilities, online training, to globally. And I think all of us, everybody who watch us or listen to this recording, should also have their own way of delivering their training and everything. So we should do it available online. And the costs are really minuscule because no flight, no accommodation, nothing and nothing. So all the LMS, most of the LMS are free, Canvas, Google, whatever. So they make it like easy for us. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we also put focus in EMCC is to provide standards and support for the sponsors and the managers of the programs. So we need a kind of strong will to really make use of mentoring, even though there are so many empirical studies that really ranks mentoring as number one top developmental tool in business, in social life. Still, you need to have some champions to make it happen. So that requires direct communication with senior people, not only in corporate world, but also in social, civic environment. And I think in some parts of the world, it's a bit more advanced than the others. But once people are equipped by basic tools, skills to become a mentor and mentee, and once we have more and more sponsors, associations, anyone who is an advocacy, anyone who is a goal, purpose, dream, they can use mentoring to really leverage this. And this is true for companies. Companies are really purpose-driven companies nowadays, but also for associations, for local governments. For example, we have this mentoring conference every year. A few years ago, we were in Barcelona, and one of the keynote speakers was a member of the government, local government there. And they explained us how they use mentoring programs for refugees coming to on their shore. So before they got their refugees, they put them through a mentoring program with previous refugees or local people or whatever. It's not an integration, but a way of letting them know what's expected of them or what they should expect, or the burdens, difficulties, how people before them, they overcome. It's just so there are many different ways to use it, but it requires a will, a kind of strong leadership to make it happen. I think we need to work on both the decision makers, but also to provide the availability of support to all mentors and mentees. And I think technology is on our side to make it happen.
Yeah, a couple questions that emerge as a result of what you said. One is, I'm just so curious and moved by this idea of refugees mentoring, refugees who have arrived mentoring newly arrived refugees. This idea, it really highlights the beauty of mentoring as a term of as a form of connectedness, right? So really curious about that. But the other thing I wanted to just ask you a little bit more about is, because you've been doing, online learning and online, I always sort of laugh when people say, well, can you mentor virtually? I've been doing mentoring virtually for a really long time, working with people in different continents. But I'm often asked this question, which is the one I want to pass along to you, is what is your advice to somebody who says, I want to make the most of being in a remote mentoring relationship? How do you suggest that they create that connectedness and use being remote as an asset?
Is this question more addressed for mentors, mentees, or both, or?
Well, I think I meant it for both, but I'd love to hear your answer however you interpret.
Sure. I don't know. I'm like, it will be difficult for me to answer this question because I'm like you. I don't see any barrier on the remote or virtual. It's just a means for a goal, and we don't have to be in the same room in order to have this exchange. I think one thing that's really crucial is concentration. So if you choose to have this dialogue over a video call, I think there should be another factors that will disturb you. For example, today here I'm alone, I'm totally with you. And I think there's even more than being in the same room with you. But there's also lots of protection in a way. This is my space, this is my area, this is where I feel comfortable. And I can really open up, I can really close it down. So it's up to me I feel more secure. I think online has this beauty, but the minute there's an interference, somebody from the family listen to me, or doorbell, or within the day, any other phone calls or colleagues, or you are in the cafe or restaurant or whatever, it doesn't. So
Yeah.
you've got to be really, really with all your senses present. The presence is very important in mentoring, but I think online mentoring is even more important. I think you need to really secure the presence, the full real presence with your mentee or with your mentor. Is the first thing. And the second thing, um, I think it's up to you. If you believe that there's any limitation, why don't you play with it? So when the pandemic started, um, it was for sure that we will do everything online. So I initiated a social responsibility project. I asked all of our members globally to provide four um, different sessions to four different mentees or coaches online, free. Why don't we do it? Because you remember last year spring, we were all kind of shut down in our whole, nothing else to do. And 4x4, we called it 4x4. So everybody did it as they like. So I had one mentee from Brazil, one from Russia, one from Iran, one from Turkey. And I worked with them. Then I realized that there's some sort of a parallel in those conversations with them. So I said, wait a minute, that there can't be so much, coincidence. So in EMCC, we really put a big focus on supervision to ensure the continuous professional development. So I asked my supervisor to work with me. So I broke the subject. How come those four could somehow resemble to each other in terms of topic, approach, questions, how I react? So then I realized that I really limit myself. As I'm online, I kind of limit my curiosity, my questions. There was a kind of some of the gestalt work, for example, I do in normal life. I wasn't daring. I want to do it, but I was stopping myself, whatever. So after this revision, I told my mentees and coaches that things are different from now on. That was after the second sessions. So we put a second camera in the room, for example. One camera that I'm talking to you, but another camera that show me with my computer in the room. And the same for that. Then there are four, screens. So
Yes.
you talk to each other, but at the same time you have a kind of second eye to show the system, the room, the for example, my body movements or whatever happening in the room or whatever.
Yeah.
So that gave me more courage to be more creative in my interactions. So what I'm going to say, whatever you discover online that becomes a burden or a limiting factor, one way to bring it to your supervision, of course, but also to play with it. Use it as a great tool to play with and add whatever you want to add. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but that's okay. That will be my advice. So, yeah, the first thing, concentrate, presence. The second thing is play with it whenever you feel there's something limiting you.
Yeah, I love that.
Message.
You can really use it. You can use technology as a laboratory to get better at your craft as well. And that's really one of the advantages of that as well. So fantastic.
I think it's just one thing, Lisa. Mentoring is a big challenge. I will just add this. For example, we're talking about contextual wisdom. We're talking about somebody having this experience. For example, during the last 1 year, mentoring had a kind of stretch because no mentor has ever went through a pandemic before. So how can you provide a mentoring on a situation where you have never been? So this was a kind of co-learning, co-development. Both mentee and mentor, they helped each other to overcome this. So it was a more kind of supportive dialogue rather than one person passing the wisdom or whatever to another. So the same thing. The beauty with technology, none of us, we are native, okay? So we are still discovering things. I can make any mistake I like. So when I put it that way, so that's also kind of opening the way for reverse mentoring and everything. But at the end, it's very empowering for mentor and mentee who feels a bit more secure about it. It's also very empowering for the one who doesn't feel secure about it. So we are not here to be the master of technology. We are all here to help each other to use technology for whatever the purpose we have in common.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, a key message.
I love that. I was just telling somebody that I think that one of the biggest benefits of this time is we've learned to give each other more professional grace. We're learning the technology together. The dog comes in the room or the children are screaming for you and and there's just, first of all, it gives you a way to engage in conversation beyond what you would have in the office space because you see somebody's face. I can ask you about that beautiful painting behind your right shoulder or all of those things, right? Where you don't get to do that in an office setting that's a little bit more sterile. But the other is that we do give each other grace a little bit more, including for the learning of technology. And there's a beauty about that creates a depth in relationships I don't think we could have before.
In transactional analysis, TA, they talk about intimacy is the highest level of, the most stroke you get, whatever. I think authenticity is the one that we always seek for in our daily life, business life, and everything. And very difficult because we put so many masks in our daily professional life. Thanks to pandemics, even though this is staged, okay, so I put that because this is a painting that's unfinished by my wife and everything. So there's a kind of stage here. But you're right, anything unexpected can happen anytime. And that makes me authentic. When I lose control, I'm more fragile and I'm more human. And that's what we want from each other. That's where we forget our loneliness or whatever. We really find this common ground or connection. And I think for mentors and mentees, it's such a secure environment. This is where we can really play with it. We can try, we can risk. So I think that's why the online technology pandemic really helped us to be more true to ourselves, to be more authentic.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. Well, this has been just such a rich conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your wisdom. I'm going to look forward to watching it again and taking notes as well. So I may follow up with some more questions. How can people find you if they want to reach you?
LinkedIn. Okay, my name, surname, just simple. Put it down. As far as I know, there is only one other person in the world who has the same name, but he's not on LinkedIn. So they should most probably find me right away. And I'm very open. I'm very open to only connections, questions, as much as I can. LinkedIn is the platform. Okay, so when we produce this video, we will put the link to your LinkedIn profile in the notes so people will find the right. Yeah, I will say this Instagram account, but it's a closed one, so it's a family whatever. So that's why I really emphasize this. I don't want to kind of be embarrassed. So I want to put people to LinkedIn to more professional dialogue there. Yeah, I get that. I have the same name as a cookbook author who makes Texas tacos and queso. So I get that all the time. We want to make sure to have the right person. We'll make sure to do that. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks so much for your passion about mentoring, and appreciate you sharing your wisdom. Thank you very much. It was lovely. Thanks. Wonderful. Thank you.